Hi, everybody. It's Beth Ienni, licensed therapist and food addiction recovery coach. And today I want to talk to you about something positive, which is how to get a new brain and a new body during this pandemic. It is possible to get a new brain and a new body during this pandemic. Okay. But first, let me tell you a little bit about me and food addiction so we understand what we're talking about. Again, if you're just joining me live, I am a licensed therapist, a food addiction recovery coach. I've been working with food addicts for actually over 23 years now. Done a lot of trial and error over the years. I'm a recovered food addict myself. So, not only through my own struggles, but through watching the struggles of my clients, I was able to formulate a way out. Okay. And let's define food addiction. Okay. Because I think a lot of people are confused about it. They think, am I an emotional eater? Am I a stress eater? What exactly is going on with me? Is it trauma? Is it depression? People are confused. So I do want to take this opportunity just to define what food addiction really is. And then you can decide whether you really are a food addict. So, by my definition, a food addict has to be out of control with food, meaning you cannot control the amount of food you eat, generally speaking. Now, just like any other addict, you may be able to control it in the short term. You may be able to control it for a few hours, a few days, a few weeks, even a few months. But ultimately, and here's the second part of it, you're paying a high price for this addiction. You're not controlling it well enough to avoid some serious consequences. And what are those serious consequences? Well, sometimes the consequences are more mental. There is a lot of depression, anxiety, self-hatred, memory problems, brain fog, just so much frustration about not being able to control the food, just so much shame and low self-esteem about the consequences of that. Even if you're not that overweight, you may just be so frustrated that you are overweight or so frustrated that you're not in control that it could really bring you down. Okay. Sometimes people get super irritable with other people. They're not present. They're feeling numb. Relationships are not working well. Again, this is mostly mental, but it starts to bleed out into relationships, right? If you're married, you're not really comfortable with your body. You're avoiding your husband. You're not up to doing fun things with your family. You don't have energy really, and you're kind of down on yourself, and you're just avoiding social things. You might even be avoiding traveling and friends and family because you don't like the way you look, or it could be that you're really not up to it. So it really bleeds out. And for a lot of food addicts, it really is way more than mental and emotional and relational. It really winds up being a very concrete problem of health. A lot of food addicts hate to admit it, but they're taking a lot of medications just because of their food. They're taking diabetes medications, cholesterol medications, blood pressure medications, and while sure, some things do run in the family, if you're honest with yourself and you're taking a lot of medications, probably you know that you'd probably take a lot less medication if you could control your food. A lot of you have a lot of digestive symptoms, sleep problems, aches and pains, just exhaustion, just really, it's hard to get on and off the floor. It's hard to go on hikes. It's hard to move around easily and do the things you want to do. And if you're still working, of course, this really will impact your career. All of this impacts career. If you're not working, maybe you're wondering, gee, these health problems are going to really wind up being expensive. Long-term care usually isn't covered by insurance. So, you have to wonder, where's this all heading, right? So food addiction is something that where you can't control your food and it's really ruining your life. And it's not just ruining your life in one small way. It's usually ruining your life in all ways. You may not be aware of it completely, but if you get real and you really think about it, you realize, you know what? This thing is ruining my life in every department. And during COVID, I want to say it's coming out more and more, and thank goodness for it in the news. You know, if you think about it, what they keep saying is that if you have underlying conditions such as obesity, diabetes, heart disease, you're much more at risk from having very bad case of COVID or dying from COVID. And the fact is that, if we're honest, we're going to realize that food addiction is really what's fueling all of those things, right? So one way or another, whether you're worried about COVID in particular or not, the fact is food addiction ruins lives. And it would not be an exaggeration to say it may be the worst addiction in human history. It's probably ruining more lives and killing more people than any other addiction. And also, if you think about it, the number one cause of death in America is heart disease. Well, what do you think's fueling that? So even if you look at the top 10 causes of death in the United States, all 10 of them are affected by food addiction. So you have to get real. This is not addiction junior or addiction light. It's actually worse in many ways than other drugs because it's so sneaky, it's cheap, it's socially acceptable, it's easy to get to. So just by the fact that it's so sneaky, it's so insidious. In that way, to me, it is just a very, very evil thing in our society, and we have to take it seriously. It's a very serious disease to have. Okay. So let's talk about some good news. All right. Why is COVID an interesting time to get into recovery? Well, you're either getting really stressed out by it, and that's helping you to see how bad your food addiction is, or you've had enough time to really look at your life carefully and thereby get real about how bad it is. So either way, it's an opportunity to just face the facts. And the good news about facing the facts is that that is the only way you can get better. I think some therapists out there like to make you feel better about yourself. They say, "Oh, you know what? Just love yourself. Just forgive yourself and love yourself." Excuse me. And that's a wonderful thing. But when it comes to addiction, we just can't do that. We've got to face how bad things are. And yes, you love yourself. You do love yourself. Of course you have to love yourself. But you can't love the disease. You've got to start getting mad at that disease and saying, "I don't want this anymore. I don't deserve this. I actually love myself enough to want to face how bad this is. I don't want to whitewash it. I don't want to candy coat it. I don't want to just think positive thoughts. I want to see just how much my life is being ruined by this. And what part can I play in getting better?" And that's where you start to actually have some hope of getting better. So COVID can be a perfect opportunity for you to see just how bad your health really is. Just, how afraid you should be for your future. Just how bad your relationships and your money really are because of disease, either current or future. Right? So it's important to really have the ability and the opportunity to see how bad things are. And for some of you, you really do have some extra time on your hands. And that's actually a big part of getting better. You do need to have a little extra time to get better. You don't necessarily have to make it your full-time job. I've got plenty of clients who work full-time, have a house full of kids, and they still, do recovery just fine. But it helps. I think it really does help to have a little extra time and space. So this really could be a wonderful opportunity for many of you. And I want you to really take that seriously. And you know what? For those of you who really are scared about your finances and your future work prospects and your health, I really want to give you some hope that if you have a new brain and a new body with recovery, it's actually going to possibly not just save you money, but make you money, help you to find a new career, just give you a whole new beautiful life that you never thought possible. Okay, I want to just give you a couple examples. I tend to work with older people because sometimes it takes a while for people to understand that they're food addicts. So I tend to work with people who are, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. It takes a while for people to realize just how bad this disease is. And this one gentleman, I believe he was in his 50s or 60s, perfect example of someone who comes in with a lot of brain fog, but his was an extreme example to the point where they actually thought he must have had a stroke or he has some kind of dementia. They were very, very concerned, did all kinds of tests, saw a neurologist, and they were very, very, very worried. He could not speak or think normally at all. He couldn't make a simple decision. It was quite advanced. And it so happened that he also had a very clear case of food addiction and decided to join my program in order to deal with that. 2 weeks into it, all of a sudden, he doesn't seem to have these mental problems anymore. And his neurologist is somewhat shocked, and he describes what happened. And the neurologist said, well, that's good news. And so miraculously, he no longer has signs of dementia. That is an extreme example, but it is actually true that every single person that comes through my program within 2 weeks of changing their food has a new brain. And it just gets better after that. Another really good example of having a new brain and a new body. And of course, he lost a ton of weight. As you know, a lot of men lose weight very quickly. So I almost forgot to mention that. He lost a ton of weight and was in food neutrality very quickly. And he was very happy with that as well. But of course, the big news is not that men lose weight quickly, which is pretty normal. But the big news for him was that he didn't have a stroke or dementia. Um, Eve, we'll call her Eve, she was about to lose a job that required her to be on her feet all day and to use her hands all day. And she also needed to pass a test to keep her license or her certificate to do that job. And so, really, it was just a matter of time before she was going to lose that job. She wasn't going to be able to re up her license and so forth. Well, within, again, a couple of weeks, she gets her brain back, she gets her body back, she's not in pain. She can use her hands, she can stand on her feet, she can pass her test, and she gets to keep her job, a job that she actually really enjoyed. Mary, we'll call her Mary. Just this is something brand new from one of my clients. Just really excited after only a couple weeks in the program. All of a sudden, she feels like she has a new body and a new brain, but mostly this is a physical thing. This is a woman in maybe her 50s. She's got twin grandchildren. I don't know if they're identical or fraternal, didn't get that information. And she was very, sad that she didn't have the energy or the wherewithal, the physical strength or the ability to take care of them by herself. So she'd have to babysit with somebody else. And if she couldn't line up someone to babysit with, then she couldn't participate. And the other day, she just announced in the group, I babysat those kids for a whole weekend by myself. She was able to lift them and chase them around and deal with you. I'm sure you can all imagine what that would entail. Twin year-old kids. Okay, that's a lot, right? So you do get a new brain and a new body in recovery, and that has a lot of practical implications. Obviously, it's going to help you keep a job that you already have and want to keep. It's going to help you deal with your grandkids and have fun. It's going to help you to think and speak and just and enjoy. But one thing that occurs to me is that in this time of COVID, if you are the kind of person that has lost their job or may lose their job, or you're working less because you're stuck at home, this is a time to really learn some new skills, but you can't do that with the brain that you have in the food addiction. See, what people don't understand is that food addiction is a mind-altering disease. It is very, very sneaky. You don't feel like you're drunk, you don't feel like you're stoned, but you are altered and you're not as smart. You don't have the same focus and you don't have the same memory. It's really hard to learn new stuff. But when you're in recovery, all of a sudden your IQ shoots way up and you can focus. You've got tons of energy. You've got a lot of inspiration and you can learn new things. That's going to be really essential for a lot of you, especially if it has to do with technology and maybe you're a little older. For example, I was a therapist for decades and decided I really wanted to reach more people and I wanted to do an online coaching program. Well, when you're in your mid 50s, good luck, because you're not raised on technology. And the fact is, in my private practice, I did not use technology or computers in my private practice. I just did not do that. I was not required at that time to do that. So I had to learn how to do everything from scratch online in my mid 50s. Now, if I had not been in recovery, there's no way I could have done that. That is a stretch. It really, really is. But it's not a stretch if you can get your new brain and your new body, because you can have that mental focus and that energy. Okay, so the fact is, yes, when you're in recovery, you take less medications for diabetes, cholesterol, blood pressure, digestion. You take less medication for pain. All that stuff gets better. You lose weight, you look better, you feel better. Life is great. It really is. You have a new brain and you have a new body. Now, a lot of you are thinking, well, that sounds great, Amy, but I don't have any willpower, right? And here's the thing. You don't need willpower to be in recovery. If you had willpower, you wouldn't be a food addict, okay? By definition, you don't have any willpower and you never will when it comes to food. You never will. You don't need to have willpower. And I think this is what people are so confused about, is that they just don't understand what recovery is. They think that it has something to do with following a strict diet, and that's not it at all. Um, Being in recovery means that you no longer think and obsess about food in a dysfunctional way. You no longer want food that isn't good for you. It's simply not an issue anymore. You have what's called food neutrality. Now you may be wondering, well, how is that possible? Well, it's complicated. It's complicated. That saying, it's simple but not easy. Just reverse it. For food addiction, it's complicated, but it can be easy once you have the right information and support. It is more complicated than alcohol and drugs. Okay? We don't just put the plug in the jug. We have to learn what to eat. We have to learn what doesn't work for our bodies. It's not one size fits all. Okay, so there's a lot of learning that needs to go on. Okay, and the fact is, the information just isn't out there. You may be the smartest person in your field. You may be a very, very smart person in general, lots of education. You may have tried or read 100 different things on food. You may be an expert in nutrition. But the fact is, the information on food addiction just isn't out there, and the little bit that is just plain wrong. It's just plain wrong. And, I know it's hard to believe that there actually is an easy, straightforward solution for food addiction, because if you're like most food addicts, you've probably tried about 100 different things, no exaggeration. But the fact is, now there is a solution. There really is a solution. But you have to be willing to put aside all your fears and your doubts and really look into it. Okay, so you know how people say, they say this all the time, I know what to do, I just don't do it. I'm going to tell you there's no way in the world that you do know what to do, because the information just isn't out there. So instead of banging your head against the wall over and over saying, why am I out of control? Why am I out of control? Then just don't do that anymore. Stop banging your head against the wall and just tell yourself, look, the reason why you're out of control is that you're a food addict and you don't know anything about food addiction, and no one else out there does either. So that's why you're stuck where you are. And that's the only reason why you're stuck where you are. You're not defective. You're not a bad person with it's lazy or undisciplined or unmotivated. You just have never been given a fighting chance. So if you would like a fighting chance, if you would like actual help, if you're actually interested in a solution, we're here for you. If you're ready to invest in a professional program that gets amazing results very, very quickly, just look in the comments below. We're going to put in a few minutes a way to reach out to us, a way to book a free call to discuss your individual situation, or you can just go to amybethcall.com. That's Amy, A-M-Y, Beth, B-E-T-H, call, C-A-L-L.com. amybethcall.com. We talked to you for about an hour because we really do need to get to know you. We can't help everybody, so we like to get to know you. We ask you what's going wrong with your food and health right now, what your goals are. We ask you a bunch of questions to see if you are really ready to change. And if we think we can help you, we tell you what we do. If we don't think we can help you, we will be honest and tell you that too. Either way, it's going to be the best hour you've ever spent getting real about food addiction. Again, if you're ready to invest in yourself for a change and not just everyone else, if you're ready to invest in you, then look in the comment section in a few minutes and I'll put a way for you to book that free call, or you could just go to amybethcall.com and we look forward to talking to you.